Cover-up. That is the only word I can use to describe what we've seen in the wake of the Charlie Kirk shooting. A cover-up of the policy failure that is the gun violence epidemic in America, which the right refuses to talk about, instead attempts to distract from with culture wars. And it is those same culture wars that the right is using to cover up the real political ideology of the alleged shooter as they try to blame trans people so they can carry out their bigoted agenda. In the clearest example of a cover-up in this entire saga can be seen in the call that Donald Trump made to the governor of Utah after the first press conference that he held about the Charlie Kirk shooter. It gives away the game, and we are going to get into it. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into what Donald Trump said on that leaked phone call and why it should disturb you and shows you what they're doing, I want to start with Trump essentially admitting it all on Fox just yesterday and what he had to say about right-wing radicals.
Radicals on the right as well. We have radicals on the left. People are watching all of these videos and cheering. Some people are cheering that Charlie was killed. How do we fix this country? How do we come back together?
I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. They don't want to see crime.
Worried about the border.
They're saying, we don't want these people coming in. We don't want you burning our shopping centers. We don't want you shooting our people in the middle of the street. The radicals on the left are the problem. And they're vicious, and they're horrible, and they're politically savvy. Although they want men and women sports, they want transgender for everyone, they want open borders. The worst thing that happened...
Two very obvious things are happening right now in the wake of the Charlie Kirk shooting, and both of them are the right trying to exploit this event. The first is them saying, you cannot call us fascist anymore, even though we're engaging in fascistic activities. Even though Donald Trump is expanding his authoritarian project, his police state that he is stripping you of your civil rights and your civil liberties, you can't call us bad names and point out how we're trying to break this country. And once they've said that, once they demand that you condemn this action, that you apologize for something you're not responsible for, once they silence you, they continue to expand the authoritarian project. That's what's happening right now. And they justify any radical action they take and say that it's fine. That is Donald Trump's plan. It's why we see Pete Hegseth and Kash Patel firing employees at the Pentagon, at the FBI, who mocked Charlie Kirk, who even just posted his own words. They want loyalty, and they want to be able to carry out their project. And they made it very clear how far they'll go to silence us when Don Jr. said this right here, which is such important context for what Donald Trump said on that leaked call.
I mean, I do find, and I know Charlie and I spoke about this frequently, sort of the irony of the anti-fascists these days. They seem to be taking a lot of playbooks out of the fascists, out of the browncoats. I mean, if you don't agree with someone, kill them. I mean, that seems quite fascist to me. So, you know, I wish we would stop calling them Antifa because there's nothing anti about their fascist tendencies. It's absolutely disgusting. But there is something very odd that someone could get that radicalized with none of those footprints. So, you know, I don't want to speculate. I don't have any additional information about what these things are. But I will say, watching the left turn this violent when they don't get their way, it's almost as though, Martha, they know they've lost the plot.
I know these aren't smart people, but it really confirms my theory that most of them were hit on the head at some point in their lives. When they continue to play selective memory, the left wants to kill people that they disagree with. Which vice president did a violent mob threaten to hang because he disagreed with their false narrative around the most secure election in history? Oh, that was Mike Pence. That was your guys. That was your disagreement on the basics of facts. It wasn't a disagreement about Charlie Kirk saying that black women aren't smart enough to have jobs. First of all, that's not an opinion. That's bigotry. That is a vile bile that he spilled every day for profit, mind you, not because he was some free speech champion, but because he loved to hate. That was their project. But Don Jr. now wants to tell you, you have to be silent. You have to shut up. But we're not going to, especially as we just saw what I believe to be an unfounded report from the governor of Utah. But why he said it makes a lot of sense when we see what Donald Trump said to him on that call. Alleged killer of Charlie Kirk deeply indoctrinated with leftist ideology, Utah governor says. Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin was deeply indoctrinated with leftist ideology, according to Utah Governor Spencer Cox. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal this week, Cox said it's become very clear to us and investigators that Tyler Robinson, the suspected Kirk shooter, was indoctrinated with leftist ideology. According to the Journal's report on Robinson, his parents are registered Republicans, while he was in the past a registered nonpartisan. Now, Cox said that publicly after Trump called the Utah governor with a grim warning moments after he spoke at Charlie Kirk press conference. Moments after Utah Governor Spencer Cox received a phone call from none other than Donald Trump, moments after the governor spoke to reporters about the arrest of a suspect in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Speaking to the Atlantic's McKay Coppins, Cox said Trump called him not long after he gave an impassioned plea for peace in the wake of Kirk's death on Friday. You know, the type of person who would do something like that to Charlie Kirk would love to do it to us, Trump said, according to Cox. Trump then informed Cox that the president is one of the most dangerous jobs on the planet, rattling off stats that 15% of those who occupy the White House have been shot, and 8% have died at the hands of an assassin. Cox has emerged as a voice of calm and civility in the aftermath of Kirk's death, urging Americans to embrace moral clarity instead of rage. So Donald Trump calls the governor of Utah and tells him that the people, they who did this to Charlie Kirk, those same they want to do it to you. Now, I don't know about you, but that seems like a threat to me. And it's interesting that the press has hailed Governor Cox as someone lowering the temperature, only for him to then say, speaking on information, it seems, from reporting by the Wall Street Journal and The Guardian, which was ultimately retracted, that there was left-wing ideology spewing from this young man. Wall Street Journal published that. The Guardian published that. They had to retract it because it was based on an anonymous quote from someone vaguely familiar with the alleged assailant, who then retracted it. But Donald Trump says to the governor, you know, these people, they don't like us too much. We're threatened by them. We should be afraid of them. We should intimidate them so they don't come after us. Now, that's a lot of subtext. It's a lot of subtext, and it's not too subtle. This is what the right wants so desperately. They were, on their hands and knees, please, please, please let this shooter, in white as snow, Utah, by the way, let it be a person of color. Let it be a trans person. Oh, please. But it wasn't. It was a 22-year-old white man. That is the alleged assailant. Now, that is disproportionately the demographic of those who commit political violence in America. Yet, the right was about that quick to declare a civil war on us. And who is feeding in to that fear? Donald Trump, telling the governor of Utah that these people are coming after you. Why would Donald Trump want to communicate that message? Is it because he wants the governor to fall in line? Donald Trump is the one who has been saying this alleged assailant had a partner who was trans, something that hasn't even remotely been confirmed, but would be so exciting to the right. What we do know is that one of the roommates of the alleged assailant, for which they had two, not one that they were living with full-time, as the right would have you believe, they're fully cooperating. So the right is not only being antagonistic to the trans community for no reason, actually there is a reason, they're fucking bigots, period, full stop, but because this potential partner who could potentially, maybe, allegedly, according to some social media posts that don't really reveal anything, could be trans, because that person is cooperating with the feds, you want to go after them? Try to connect any of these dots. It doesn't make sense. They are foaming at the mouth to be bigots. They want to declare a civil war. It's what Nancy Mace called for the other day until we learned the alleged assailant was white. And then it was Jesus loves you, kumbaya, let's sing a song. Bigots. That's what they are. So don't believe this, the left, we really need to condemn the way that we speak. They don't care what we say. They don't care about the facts. They don't care about the truth. They're not honest brokers. They want any excuse to be bigots. And this isn't new. Jessica Tarlov made this point perfectly.
But I really need everyone to spare me the faux outrage and the pearl clutching about this. A little collection of things that Donald Trump and high-ranking Republicans call liberals on a daily basis: anarchists, anti-American, deranged, communists, corrupt, compromised, groomers and perverts, thugs and traitors. Now, she was explicit that she was talking about a subsection of the Republican Party the same way that Joe Biden is when he talks about this MAGA extremism. But you tell me, if the leader of the Democratic Party, so that would be Joe Biden, was facing 4 indictments with 91 felony counts, he had been found liable of sexually assaulting a woman and defaming her, that's E. Jean Carroll, guilty of fraud, sharing the nation's secrets, not only in the Mar-a-Lago indictment, but there was a report yesterday from ABC News that he had shared information about our nuclear submarine capacities with an Australian billionaire who's a member at Mar-a-Lago, who had then gone on and shared that with dozens of other people. Ended up making a purchase, I think, of 3 subs. It included specifics up to how many nuclear warheads they carry and how close they can get to Russian subs without being detected. And then I told you, so all of that is happening, and he's shooting up in the polls. And when you see those interviews of Trump supporters outside of the rallies, they're like, none of this is true. It's the big lie. He won the election, et cetera. And you wouldn't say to me, you guys are in a cult? It's actually tame what Hillary Clinton was saying.
This is who we're up against. And I hate to, frame it in that way. I do, because I don't want to do a they. I don't want to do the ominous them. I don't want to do the out-group politics thing. But I didn't storm the Capitol. Neither did you. I didn't make any memes after Paul Pelosi was assaulted. I certainly didn't on my program say that some patriot, in the words of one Charlie Kirk, should bail him out. So it seems like he was fine with political violence. So yeah, I'm going to be okay shooting straight here and pointing out what is very obvious, that these people aren't honest brokers, and we don't have to engage and mourn and fake weep with them like they are. Because what they'd want more than anything is to be more bigoted than ever. That is the setup. That is what Donald Trump is trying to do. And we are going to call that out every single day on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you're stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep fighting. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.